Mr. Beacon podcast is sponsored by Wiliot, scaling IoT with battery-free Bluetooth.
Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. Wonderful to have you back. Amazing that we're all still alive after the turbulent couple of weeks that we've had. I am really happy to have Sprague Ackley back on the show. Sprague, thanks very much for joining us. Sprague's from Digimarc. Digimarc are a really fascinating company doing something pretty unique. I'll say what I think they do, and then Sprague can correct me. But basically, digital fingerprinting. So putting IDs into things that in a way that's invisible. So images, sound, and this ability to encode is very, very clever. At one level, simple, but the applications are endless. And so, Sprague, thanks very much for coming back on the show to talk to us about this.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great opportunity. And you're just going to have to shut me down because I love talking about it. It is an incredible technology.
What's your role at Digimarc?
I'm in I'm an R&D engineer, they call it. I basically do research into pushing the limits of the technology. But my first task really is to work with measuring print quality. So just a step back, you mentioned all the audio and video. That's really where the company got its start. So if you imagine a digital file, you have a bunch of bytes that have a certain value, whether it's audio or visual or light detection, whatever it is. And so if you manipulate that slightly up or down by a gray level or two in the printing world, or a level or two in the audio world, in a particular pattern, you won't be able to hear the difference. You wouldn't be able to see the difference. And so that's how we digitally fingerprint content, for instance, that's on the internet. But the thing that Digimarc did that's really remarkable is so that's called digital watermarking. That's been around for a while, well before Digimarc. That's well known in IEEE papers and all that for decades. But what Digimarc did is they figured out a way to print the digital watermark in a way that you can't really see it. And so when you read a Digimarc symbol, you don't already know what it was supposed to be, which is what all those other technologies, you know what the original sound was, and so you can detect the information. This allows you to print something and read it just like a regular barcode. So the easiest way to describe it is one of the forms is called the binary pattern, and it basically looks like just a bunch of dots widely spread over uniformly over the substrate. So imagine, I think I used this analogy last week, sprinkling some pepper onto white paper and shift it around so it's kind of uniformly spread out. To the naked eye, you can see just a bunch of dots, but it's very pleasing because it's kind of all spread around all over. And the actual technology is called spread spectrum encoding, which is how radio frequency RFID works, but it's spread spectrum printing. And then we replicate that pattern multiple times, so it has phenomenal redundancy, which is one of the key traits that allows it to be used in lots of applications. And even when it's black and white, so you can see it, you hardly kind of notice it because it's just like this kind of like a nice pattern that you would have on like fabric might have like a pattern or a fancy napkin or something. So if
I wanted to see your product in action, where would I have to go to see an example of Digimarc, or not see an example of Digimarc in action?
Right. So the binary pattern is quite new. So in order to see that, it's used in it's actually woven into fabrics, and one of the applications is to be used in high-end textile fabrication. And I can't tell you which companies are using it, unfortunately, so you can't go out and look at it, because obviously they want you to think it's a beautiful textile pattern that they have, and not something that will detect knockoffs of their brand.
But it's used for anti-counterfeit in high fashion type
in
garments.
those applications.
And I would look at it, and could it, if I have a gray, like a black shirt, it's not going to work in that, presumably. You need some kind of variability in color, otherwise you would see the pepper grains, as it were.
But for instance, if you had black fabric and you looked at individual, well, here's white fabric, and if you look at it up close, you can see the weave. And if you had one of those little weaves be black, or even a light color, and it's spread all over the shirt would still look basically white, but there would be a little bit of a textured pattern to it. So you would not know it was a barcode for sure.
And
but
so
if
you're
you
wearing
knew
a
it was
barcode.
Digimarc was on there, you could say, oh, I can see those little dots if you look under with a magnifying glass.
So in that example, I'm wearing something that looks kind of black or looks kind of white, but it's got some texture, and there's actually a barcode in there that's spread all over you. And just at a practical level, I don't need to worry about framing the whole of your shirt. I don't need to get you to kind of move to the left, move to the right. I can be pretty carefree in taking a picture of that fabric, and it will read it.
Anywhere. So, I mean, it's something about the size of a quarter. That's enough to read all the data. And it can be anywhere on the shirt. And in fact, it can be in different parts of it. If you pick a little bit up here and a little bit down there, the grid is made and you end up getting your data.
So, well, let's say I go from wearing the white shirt and it's Friday, so I'm going to go crazy and I wear my tartan shirt. Is the Digimarc pattern going to be the same pattern replicated, or do you adjust it? Because, one moment I'm on green fabric, next time on red, then it's yellow. Is it an offset? Is it sort of darker yellow, brighter green, darker red, or am I basically going to look for little black specks throughout the whole of the tartan? How does that work?
Yeah, so the way that it works in that binary symbol is you're looking for, so it's a very sparse mark. So the contrast doesn't need to be very much. You just need a little bit of contrast. So you can either have a light area surrounded by dark, or a dark area surrounded by light. And that can be with color. For instance, if you have kind of a lighter reddish purple, dot surrounded by a kind of a bluish purple background, you won't even see that at all, because the human eye is just very hard to see something like that. But if you look at it with a red light scanner, you'll see, bunches of dots everywhere that are very clear. And so the color aspect is the other thing that Digimarc does. And there are lots of examples of this. So this color symbol has been out there for like around 5 years. So there's lots of places you can go to see that. You know what? I should have brought some props here with me. If you look at the package, it just looks like a regular, whatever cracker box or cereal box. And but if you look at it under red light with a magnifier, you'll see very subtle color variations where this light color is surrounded by dark, or vice versa. And that is the secret sauce, basically. And that allows every item which is printed on a regular halftone print press, so you don't need any different type of printing technique. It's exactly off-the-shelf printing, in a PDF format artwork, just like everybody uses. But instead of halftone, it's kind of random. If you ever look at a cereal box or whatever, a magazine page under magnifier, it's actually tons of little dots, and the intensity of the dots from the three colors, that are used in a printing press, give you, when you stand back, it gives you that image. Well, we use the exact same process, but we manipulate it so it's not random. So those little dots are not random, but are placed there in a specific way, which encodes the data. Now, those types of packages, like a cereal box, every cereal box is encoded with the same data, which is the same data that's in the UPC barcode on the front. It's called the GTIN. So every package is the same. With the advent of these digital printing techniques that are coming out now, you can actually print the same package that actually looks the same, but has a serialized barcode in it. Obviously, no one's going to go through the expense and difficulty to do that for, a box of Cheerios, but they are doing that for more expensive things like wine, and high-end types of products. So they are all actually unique. You get the GTIN plus a serial number, so you know which product that you're dealing with.
So this is part of this mega trend, as I would call it, of serialization. We're going from every product has a SKU, but they're all the same, to everyone has a unique ID. And if you have a unique ID,
right,
that means you can have a digital passport in the cloud, and you can start to track and trace and have history and provenance. Who owned this before? What was it? Where did it come from? Is it in the right place? All of these applications.
Absolutely, and especially important for like fresh foods, where, how many times have you heard about this E. coli breakout and that, recall, and they got to recall everything, and they don't know who has what. But so we have a few customers, and I don't believe I'm allowed to say that the customer. I'm going to just err on the safe side. Mm-hmm. But we have some fresh food customers, that basically grow fresh food, and they are using Digimarc binary barcode, but it's printed in a color offset fashion that's easy to pick up with a red light scanner, which is what's used at the point of sale, in every supermarket. But it's very hard to see by eye. You'd have to get a magnifier and have to know it's there. But if you just stand back and look at the label, it looks just like, a label that's not enhanced. And that way they are serializing every single, package of fresh produce that allows, targeted, and, one recall is like millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Plus loss of everything. So it pays for itself incredibly quickly.
And the thing what I like about what you do is the aesthetics. You can have the benefits of a barcode without the destruction of the visual beauty of the print work, the artwork. You can have products that are relatively small that have this data encoded, and it looks beautiful. So I'm sure the merchandising people, the art director for the CPG company really loves it. What are what do you have to read this? Presumably, you need a camera that's pretty sophisticated, given that these artifacts are quite small. What sort of device do you need?
Well, you need, for the binary mark, you need any type of a regular old barcode scanner, and all the major manufacturers support it in all of their products now. Oh. And so basically, you just need to get a regular barcode scanner, or a mobile computer that has a barcode scanner in it. Or if you have a mobile phone, you can download our app and just, read it with the camera on your phone. So it's nothing. You need nothing. The color symbol we specifically make so that it can be scanned using red light, which is what's used at the point of sale. Nothing.
And that,
you just
point
need
of sale,
to, you know.
I see kind of these laser scanners, and then I see these optical scanners. Can it be read by both, or just one of those?
Yeah, so historically, the point of sale used lasers, and the UPC symbol was designed to be read in any orientation as long as you had an X-beam laser scanner. And then starting precisely in 1994, the first what we called an imager was released, which was essentially a video chip, which is now used in every phone as it's a camera basically. That camera is now how barcode scanners work. So that there's a little video chip or in the scanner, and you take a picture at a very high speed, and it's a photo. It's a digital photo, and that's what is used to decode it. So I don't know what all the details are on the transition, but anybody getting a new scanner for use at point of sale is only getting imagers. That's been the case for 5 years. There are still some installed laser scanners that cannot read Digimarc, and for that matter can't read any 2D barcode like QR code or data matrix, which are being used more and more. I joke that if you ask a kid what a barcode is, and they'll say, "Oh, it's this square thing with the 3 eyes," and that's that's a QR code. That's really where barcode is moving into the future. And the thing you mentioned about getting that that ugly barcode, and except for those of us who have been in the industry and happen to think barcodes are beautiful, most people don't really want those black and white stripes on their package. And GS1, which is the organization that manages the numbering, for all of retail, that number underneath the UPC symbol, which is called a GTIN, is administered by GS1, and they are looking at the future, and the future of on-pack coding is to go to 2D barcode. And I'm working with them. I'm on their technical committee, and we are investigating using 2D barcodes like QR code and data matrix. And in fact, we have just recently added to the general specifications the ability to put a hyperlink into a barcode, which can take you to the site that the brand owner is set up, so you're getting accurate information, and you can pull out the GTIN out of that if you need it for point of sale, or if you're a consumer, you can get all kinds of product information and nutritional information and whatever having to do with that product. And the vision of that is to have like a 2D barcode next to the 1D barcode. And what Digimarc is doing, working with GS1, and we've also published a paper on this that is in the public domain, to basically say that the future of that on-pack coding really is Digimarc, because you really can eliminate the visual barcode. You don't even need the QR code or the UPC code, because you can print the barcode everywhere on the package. And in addition to getting that data easily and having more marketing data on the package and all that, you don't have to orient the package.
That's actually a really good point.
You can go down the aisle, and you can just go beep, 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 and do inventory. You could even do it robotically. This is
efficiency,
all like
better checkouts. So I want to tell a story here. I was I was at a Home Depot, and I bought a miter saw, huge thing, because I have a little construction project. My small miter saw gave up the ghost. And I have it on, it's really heavy with the stand, and I'm a little worried about the trolley is going to it's going to flip off it, and the whole thing's going to fall on there. And so I I get it up to the checkout register, and the lady kind of looks at it, and we're like, yeah, where is that barcode? And we kind of look on the top, the back, the front, the sides. It's not there. Of course, it's on the bottom, and this thing is like super heavy. And if they were using Digimarc, you would not have that problem. I wish that they were. And I think it's kind of ironic that one of the biggest challenges with any of these technologies is the infrastructure there to read it. And I've seen loads of problems with laser scanners, especially with QR codes on phones. They're famously very, very bad at reading that, and it doesn't work. And the thing that I think has driven this change is QR codes, and the fact that you can actually obsolete QR codes. You've like taken advantage of one of your biggest competitors' success. They've driven the infrastructure, these optical readers that actually can also read your product. So, why isn't everybody using this? It seems like it's looks better user experience, scan it faster, more data, serialization. It seems like the whole world should be using this technology now.
Well, the serialization stuff is just starting to happen. We started piloting some of these applications less than a year ago. Plus we've been on lockdown, but we're still moving forward with that. And the retail barcode that this is blended in with the package, that was only introduced maybe about 4 years ago, and we have lots of customers for that. I think I mentioned the Walmart toy catalog, all 40 million copies of that. Every single page, both sides, is completely enhanced with Digimarc. So you can just take like this little piece of the upper right corner of any page, and it reads. And in some cases, we have multiple functionality on the same page. So if you aim it at the dollhouse or something, you get an animation about the dollhouse and all that. So that's out there quite a bit, and that's expanding fairly quickly. But our business with the variable barcode is just exploding. And to be honest, we are stretched to the max, just handling all of the enthusiasm that we have, from potential customers. So
I guess,
most of it I can't talk about. That's the tough thing about it. So it's out there, you just don't know it.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about is it an all or nothing thing? Because one of the challenges with, if you've got a supermarket, it might have 50,000 different items in it, and do you have to have all 50,000 using, from maybe thousands of different brands, all using Digimarc? Or is this one of these things where, I can have barcodes and I can have Digimarc and it can work together? Does that even make sense? So I think I'm trying to answer my own question, which is, why are we not all using this? What are the barriers to scaling this? And it seems like, what are the practicalities of having a dual ecosystem with both technologies? Do I get the benefits of the new product if I have to do that?
Yeah, well, certainly the more you have enhanced with Digimarc, the more benefit you're going to get.
Right.
So if you're checking out, products and you see, your store brand, for instance, and that's most of our applications are brand owners doing, enhancing their own product, because they're in charge of the printing and the reading. Yeah. And they, they just know that they don't have to find the barcode and orient it. They just grab the thing and it just beep, 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 beep. And self-checkout is greatly, enhanced with that technique. But the scanning technology that you have is, allows you to add this while you already have other barcodes. And, so it does work with other barcodes, but the more you move into the Digimarc, the better, your productivity is going to be. And, to answer your question from a technology standpoint, one of the issues we have that we're facing right now as we scale this up is on the press line is developing quality tools so that while these symbols are being made, at whatever they go at 100 feet per minute, they're just, it's like those pictures of old newspapers, ripping along. It's basically how they make product packaging. Is developing quality tools to enable process control. And that's one of the things I'm working on with my much more learned colleagues at Digimarc right now. And that's one of the big limitations. So we're developing an SDK that we hope will get incorporated into all of the barcode verification equipment that's out there, so that people that are already have a verifier on press that they use to measure the quality of regular barcodes, they will be able to measure the quality of Digimarc. And similarly, there's also high-speed optical cameras that go across the whole web. We're working with the manufacturers of those to enable them with our print quality software. But that is a work in process. So that's a big limitation to scaling right now, is getting all the quality tools in place. And that's one of my big activities. Well, I can talk about the encoding of the retail symbol and the binary symbol. It encodes regular product information. So you start off with a little data packet, which is either around 50 bits or 100 bits. 50 bits is just the UPC symbol, which is, remember, the numbers underneath the UPC symbol on a cereal box. That's called the GTIN, Global Trade Item Number officially. And we have a packet that is about double that includes the GTIN and the serial number, for instance, or lot and batch and best by information. Secondary data, let's just call it secondary data. And so you have 100 bits. And then you take that 100 bits and you add some header bits, which tells the system this is what you're trying to read. And then you add approximately 900 more bits of error correction.
Wow, that's a lot of error correction.
A lot of error correction. So by contrast, QR code, which has variable amounts of error correction. So if you put the most amount of error correction, which is how you can read those QR codes with the happy face in the middle, it's because you don't need all the bits. You can it has this mathematical redundancy. Well, QR code is the most. It has about 50% redundancy. So if you take a bunch of data and then you take 50% of that, and that's your extra error correction, so you can kind of chop off a corner of a QR code and it still reads. Digimarc has in its serialized version has 700% error correction. So at the point of sale scanner, just like you can read multiple barcodes with a typical handheld scanner, Digimarc is just another barcode that is auto-discriminated with all the others. So all you got to do is make sure it's turned on, basically.
So going back to my question of, why not scale overnight? You've been doing a lot of hard work working with all of these point of sale companies to make sure that they've got the firmware and the software running on their systems, because getting software into a point of sale is challenging, and they all presumably want money to do that, or at least a customer that's willing to say, I'll only buy your products if you have it.
There's been a number of brand owners who have said, I'm not buying your scanner unless you put Digimarc in it, because we're thinking about putting Digimarc into our future product or branded product, and we want to make sure that it's in the scanner. So manufacturing companies, they hop to it when they're told they can't sell something unless there's something in there. They put that something in there, and it's been several years that this has been the case. This is not like new stuff. It's been in all the big guys scanning equipment for years, And where it is used, which is multiple brand owners worldwide, that's already in the scanner. But what I see is this is going to go, you mentioned scaling. One project that Digimarc has been working with in Europe, which is called the Holy Grail Project. It's envisioning the marking of plastics so that they can be scanned in the recycle stream and sorted into pure material, which then instead of landfill becomes a profit center, because that pure material can be chopped up and reused. And that that system was prototyped in a lab about a year and a half ago, and is now being run in an actual recycling facility. And so what we're doing is working with major brand owners, and I'm not going to say who they are, but they're every major brand owner that makes products in retail, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I would encourage your viewers to go just type in Holy Grail or Digimarc or plastic recycling, and it'll all pop up, and you can see videos and all that kind of stuff. But basically, if you one way we're working on it is adjusting the mold that makes a plastic container. So we're experimenting with a lot of different types of mold adjustments, but imagine a mold that has little bumps in the mold. So when the plastic bottle is molded, it has either a positive or a negative, very subtle texture. You might be able to feel it with your fingers, but when you look at it, it might look at it like it's slightly frosted, like it's a decorative thing. Mm-hmm. And that's the barcode. And anywhere you orient that bottle, you're going to, because you only need a tiny little piece, remember, you can read that barcode. And you crush it and twist it and get it dirty, you're still going to find places that have readable barcode. And that is how we're, you have to make the mold, but once you make the mold, you have hundreds, millions of bottles for free, all have a barcode in it, which when you read it, you can tell what the plastic is.
That's awesome.
It's awesome. And all the big brand owners are coming on board with that. So I think that is one of the big drivers, I think, personally, because the circular economy, is big. And here in America, there's, some places in the country anywhere, like the Pacific Northwest where I am, we've been recycling stuff for, 40 years. And elsewhere in the world, it's more than just, oh, that's a nice thing to do. You get fined if you're not doing it. And there's a cost problem that you incur. And so by solving this problem, you not only are helping the environment, you're saving money. And that's why the Europe operation is so much farther ahead. But we're working in Asia and in Australia and US also, but they're just a little farther behind than the progress in Europe. And once this really gets up and running, all these big brand owners, I believe, are just going to start saying everybody has to do it.
I think it's awesome. And I think the fact that you can help the recycling industry make more money, because the better job you do of separating, the more profitable it gets. The more profitable it gets, then it becomes a virtuous circle.
Yeah,
and I think people are more willing to recycle if they think that it's actually working. One of the things that puts people off is like, I'm doing this, but I think it's all going into the landfill. But if they can see that there's a lot of reuse of these products and so forth, then
right now, at least in my state of Oregon, we recycle everything, and it doesn't go into the landfill. But if you just have a bunch of mixed plastic, you can kind of semi-melt it down and make like bricks and stuff out of it. There's a bunch of, bumpers for thing. There's a bunch of products that are on the market now that are made from this recycled material. But if you can get pure stream, now you can save on virgin material, and you also use less fossil fuels, which is where the stuff is made from in the first place. So it just
Holy Grail.
As you pointed out, it's the win-win. It's a huge win-win. And I tell you, for me personally, that's one of the feel-good things about working at Digimarc is you really feel like you're helping the planet.
Yeah, in a very real way. Yeah, we had a podcast where we interviewed. We had a discussion on the circular economy. There's a amazing Latin American company that's working on that, and if anyone's interested in it, Ellen MacArthur Foundation, Google that, and there's a lot to it. But basically,
and the MacArthur Foundation is also a funder of the Holy Grail Project too.
Yeah, there you go. So just before we sign off, 2 other applications I wanted to find out about. So let's imagine I'm a talented photographer, which I'm not, but I want to sell my wares and spot people that are basically pirating the image, copying it and using it without my permission. Is that an application that you guys do? And if so, how would I avail myself of your services?
Right. Yes, that's the classic application. And I must say I'm not as versed on that application as I'm not directly involved in it. But there is a whole separate group of Digimarc people focused on that. And that application, so getting the enhancement into the photos is actually fairly trivial because it's all digital, it's just software.
Yeah. And actually, I'm now wondering, what about audio? So you can do the same thing with audio, right?
Exactly the same thing with audio, yeah.
So actually, this is kind of ironic because when we do the 3 songs to Mars, what we do is we take a little fragment of that song and we overlay it whilst you were telling your story.
I hope you're paying your
no, we don't.
royalty fees.
We don't. Fair use. You can use a short clip, but sometimes YouTube catches it. So is that like Digimarc technology that's catching the audio and saying, "Hey, this is copyright audio"? Because I often wonder, how do they recognize it? Because it's not like this is a clean signal. It's like got you and me talking, and then there's the audio on top of it. And
well, it's just like in the printed version, you can have, like, for instance, on a cereal box, you have the nutritional panel. It's just all these words and white background. You can print binary symbol in the background, and it reads totally fine. And that's the same thing with audio and digital photography. The signal is spread all throughout the song. The entire song has it.
Yeah.
So if you take a tiny little piece of it, the signal is in that tiny little piece imperceptibly. So you can't hear the difference, of course.
Right.
But if you run it into software, we will pick it right up.
Well, and I just want to say, for anyone that's annoyed by the adverts that you hear in this show, we actually donate all of the revenue from the adverts to a local charity for kids in San Diego. So your pain is resulting in school supplies for kids that are homeless. So
I didn't know that, but it's a nice touchy-feely feeling to know that. That's great.
Very good. Well, on that note, let's wrap it. This is fascinating, Sprague. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me. Like I say, I'm very excited about this whole technology, and let's touch base in a year, and I bet you we'll have a lot more applications. A lot more applications to talk about.
So I guess the question is whether you have 3 more songs to talk about.
Oh, I did not come up with 3 more songs.
That's okay.
I can do that.
What do you think you'll listen to this weekend? Well,
the song I mentioned, or the symphony I mentioned before, which is the Saint-Saëns Symphony for organ. Back when I was in college, I was started to get intrigued by classical music, and my dad said that there was this, symphony that he really loved, and I got a copy of it, and I had, the big stereo system. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's this is probably an embarrassment to say this, but it's the most pop sounding symphony I think I've ever heard. It has a lot of great themes running through it that are really quite catchy, and when the organ comes in, it's very exciting. It's a great symphony. So I would have that one as one. And then another song which I really love, especially if I've just accomplished something, if I've just gotten, I remember playing it once. I had just come back from an expedition kayaking a wilderness river, and I was in an incredibly good mood. And it's the Queen song, I Want It All and I Want It Now. It's just a great anthem for, getting psyched up and feeling good. And a third song, let's see what just jumps randomly into my mind. I would have to say here's a goofy thing. I would say it's the Star Spangled Banner. For some reason, when I, like at a baseball game, when I hear somebody singing that, with all this weird political stuff that's going on now, maybe it's a weird thing to say, but I would say it still gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, and I think that's what we look for in music, isn't it? Sort of emotional resonance. It reminds you, often we like the music as much because it reminds you of a time or a person, and or evokes certain feelings. I mean, I think Queen gets chosen a lot on this show because it does that.
It does have that. It does have that.
Yeah.
A lot of their songs are very powerful, and I just saw them in concert with Adam Lambert. Just saw them, about a year ago before we stopped seeing concerts, and it's phenomenal music, and the whole rest of the band is still original, and I just seen the Freddie Mercury biopic, so it was
that was great.
Bit of
I love
Queen
that.
fest there for a while.
Yeah,
but I saw them in concert actually with Freddie Mercury long ago when they did that U.S. tour. You saw the movie, that they did one U.S. tour.
Yeah.
And when was that? Like 80 or I think it was like 1980. I just moved to Seattle, and I went down and saw Queen on the floor live. Just unbelievable. One of those.
I saw them after you saw them, but it was in the early 80s. This was just when they were making their transition from guitar to synthesizers and the whole electronic thing, and it was in a massive outdoor arena in England, and I remember it took us 2 hours to get out of the car park at the end, but it was a great 2 hours. Everyone was having an amazing time playing songs on the car stereo, and it was such a great atmosphere, and the concert was incredible. So I haven't seen Adam Lambert, though. He's a local San Diego guy. Yeah, I have. So that gives me some affinity.
They did a great job, segueing between the have to only be Freddie Mercury stuff, and then they did a hologram with Freddie Mercury. It was pretty cool. It was all very respectful, and then some new stuff that was just with Adam Lambert, and I thought that it exceeded my expectations. I thought it'd be a little goofy and phony a little bit, but they did a great job.
So these warm-up sessions, we used to just talk about music, and I've increasingly indulged myself in asking our guests about themselves and their history and their careers and so forth. And we talked a bit about that in the last episode. But I was thinking about your career and your role, and you seem to have done a really good job. You've got this super interesting job. You're very creative technically. You get to engage with other people through this standards organization, AIM, that you're part of. And so you get to travel the world a little bit, I guess, and more importantly, build these relationships with people. So if you were giving your advice to a teenage son, a 18 or 21-year-old, What advice would you give about how to replicate your success? Because I'm thinking the formula's probably changed a bit, but what do you think are what's the advice that you would give?
You know, when I was in school, I was just completely in love with physics. I thought it was the coolest thing going, and I did advanced math, and I did advanced physics courses, and I majored in college, and then I went to graduate school, and I was just all about physics all the way, and right through to getting a PhD, until I realized that one of the big reasons I love physics from a job standpoint is it would give me flexibility to kind of do anything. And then I realized that if I spent the remaining 7 or 8 years left to get my PhD, that I would have about 3 places in the world that I'd be able to work. And so that, combined with falling in love with a bunch of other things approximately at that time, led me to leave with a master's. And then when I went into the work world, the background in physics was great for all kinds of things, but the important thing is that what I loved about physics is that you could dig into the root cause of fundamentally how things worked. And when I got my first job, which was in manufacturing as a process engineer, I used all that information, and it became more like an applied physics kind of thing. But the key was I loved it. I loved figuring out those kind of problems. And I guess loving it is the key. And so the advice I would give to young people is take courses that you love. Don't worry at this point about what career you're going to get. You're going to get a career based on someone hiring you to do something that they need to have done. And if you're doing something that you really love and you're enthusiastic about, and you maybe even have hobbies that are linked to it, you're going to be successful. You might not know now. You might love, French and want to study French like mad. And how am I ever going to make money, with French or pure math or whatever it is? Well, don't worry about that. When you look back on your career, you'll say, wow, I'm really glad I did this because I was able to use it over there. That you cannot predict. So in short, do something that you have the most fun, that you really love. And the worst thing that will happen is maybe you will be unemployed, but at least you've had a great time up until that moment. But I've found that people that are successful doing something have pursued a path where they pursue things that they really, really are enthusiastic about. So that would be my advice.
I think it's great advice. I think I feel like I've done very much the same kind of thing. Cool. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.